label your notes as Unit 8. We are moving on to Unit 8. On inverses. And we're going to start today talking about mostly just reviewing what a function is. So like I said, review, so this shouldn't be anything new to you. Does anybody have any recollection of what a function is? We have used the word function a lot, but we have not defined it. This year, it was defined last year in your geometry class. So does anybody have any recollection?
Isn't it where line crosses through the U thingy once?
You are definitely on the right track. Yes.
I know the good x-axis.
Where the x and the y-axis meet.
Not axis, but where the x and the y intersect.
You guys are thinking in the right direction.
If it
That's
goes
where
through
the-
the line,
That's how
you
my
have
graph
outside you and then
line test.
yeah, that's vertical.
Vertical line test, yes.
I can
Okay.
remember that part.
You guys are all taught. You were talking about that, but you didn't say that. But I knew what you were talking about. Jeremiah, you too. Moses just said the vertical line test. Well, wait, was it not Moses?
I was saying it a lot.
Sorry, but everyone's talking at once.
Marcus is like, I was actually right.
Partially.
Don't even get
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, a function
That's the best part.
it has to pass the vertical line test. Yeah, so we're going to talk about that really quickly today. Like I said, these are not long notes, but just a formal definition is kind of what I was looking for when I said a function. A function is a relationship between two variables. In this case, with the two variables that we're going to talk about are x and y, so I'm going to put in parentheses here. My pen, I think, is running out of batteries. Between x and y, the relationship between two variables x and y in which each x corresponds to one y value. Each x value corresponds to one y value. So I'll give you guys a chance to get that written down, and then we're going to talk about what does that look like when you graph it and so on. So if each x value has only one y value, your graph might look like this. Can I flip screens, you guys?
Good.
Are we good? Speak now if it's... So for example, let's look at some examples. I'll label this example. What if you have a graph that looks like this? What kind of graph is this? It's a parabola. And if you pick some x value along the x-axis and you go to the graph, are you going to find exactly one y value? So for example, if you pick this x value right here, do you get one y value? Yep, you do. The one y value is right here. If I pick this x value on the x-axis here, and I read up to the graph, how many times am I going to get how many y values am I going to get?
One.
You're going to get one y value. So if I pick this x value right here, this x value right here, and I read up to the graph, I'm only going to get one y value. So in other words, this thing is exactly what Marcus said. It passes the vertical line test. So if I draw a vertical line anywhere in this graph, will it ever touch the graph in more than one spot? No, it won't. So therefore, this is a function. So examples, I'm going to write the question, are these functions? Are these functions? So is this one a function?
Yeah.
Yes, we figured out that yes, this one is in fact a function. What about this one? Is this a function? a function? Yes. Does it pass the vertical line test?
Yeah.
If for each x, is there only one y value? Yes, if I pick that x value, there's one y. If I pick this x value, it has one y value. So in other words, this thing passes the vertical line test. So yes,
It's in jail.
it is in jail. It doesn't look like it, doesn't it? All right, what about this one?
No.
Function?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, it's function. It's a horizontal line. By the way, what's the equation of that line?
Sure.
Depends on what the.
I heard something say. How did that set it? No. Whenever it's horizontal,
It's X.
it's always no, it's a line. This would be, for example, y equals 2. So, is it a function? Can we decide if it's a function?
Yeah.
Yeah, passes the vertical line test. So yes, it is a function. So this is a yes. All right. Obviously, we need some no examples, right? What about this?
No.
No.
You could tell me no before I even drew it. 'Cause I told you we need to do some no examples, right?
You
Doesn't
can
pass the
tell us
vertical
in-
line test. So if I pick this x value, I have a y value up here. I have another y value down here. We have two y values for the same x value. This is a no, it is not a function. What about this?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean,
That's a cubic function. We talked about those. Well, we don't know if we graph. Yeah, we did graph some of these too. Does it pass the vertical line test?
Yeah.
Does each x have one y? Yeah, it does. This is definitely a function. One more example. Is it a function?
No.
X.
The equation would be
X.
x equals something. For example, maybe x equals 3. Is it a function?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Because
Yes.
if you put a lines right now, that's gonna touch.
Danny, I heard you.
It's a no.
Yes.
If I drew a vertical line right here, would it touch the graph in more than one spot?
Yeah.
Yes.
How many times does it touch it?
Always.
Once.
Infinite number of times. Is it a function?
Yes.
No.
It is not a function. If it touches in more than one spot, it is not a function. This
Same
is
number,
a
though.
no. A vertical line is not considered a function. Okay?
No.
Touches all.
You know
of
how a
it.
minute ago I said to you guys that I was going to give you one more example? I just said one more. I lied.
You're a liar.
Can I do? Can I flip?
Yeah.
What about this? Another more examples.
That's still-
What about this?
No.
I'm gonna give you some points. I'm just gonna plot some random points. There's a point here, there's a point here. Is it a function?
Yes.
Yes.
If I drew a vertical line, does it ever touch it more than once?
No.
Now, some places I draw a vertical line, it doesn't touch it at all. But it never touches more than once. So this is definitely a function.
Pen's dying.
Is it a function?
No.
No.
Yeah, because there is a
Well-
place, it's not a function. So if I drew a vertical line here, it would touch the graph in more than one spot. So this right here would be a no. Yes? I mean, no?
Yeah.
It's not a function, right? Alright. What about this? It's gonna give you a bunch of ordered pairs. 4, 2, 3, 5, 0, 1,
Yes.
-2, 0. Is it a function?
Yes.
Yes.
Why?
No X repeating.
There's no repeated x. Alright, well, you know what? I am gonna make a repeated x then. Here's a repeated x.
No.
Is it a function?
No.
Yes.
Why is it a function?
Same point.
It's the same point. Yes. So sometimes when I'm looking at these things, I get confused, and it takes me a minute to figure out whether or not it's a function. And if you are one of those people, then please graph it. If you are unsure what's going on here, are there any x's in this situation that are repeated?
No.
Are there any repeated x values?
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yes. Okay, good. Yep, you are right, Sherilyn, yes. A repeated x, but they don't really count because that repeated x value has the same y value. Are you with me there?
True.
Alright, so if I were to graph this, I'm going to graph it really quickly. The 0.42 is about here. The 0.35 over 3 up 5, it's about right here. The 0.01 is about right here. -20 is about right here. And then the 0.35 is this point right here. I already have a point there. Does it pass the vertical line test? Sure does. It does pass the vertical line test. So this is a yes, it is a function. Give me one value that I could add to this. Raise your hand please to give me one value. Give me one value that I could add to this to make it not a function. Go ahead, Kyle. 4, 1. Very good. See, if I add 4, 1 to this, if I add 4, 1 to this, now I've added a point here. I would go over, what was the other point? 4, 2. If I go over 4 and up 1, it would put a point right here. And then this vertical line down here at the end, it crosses 2 points, making it not a function. Does that make sense? So when I add this 4, 1, this becomes no, it is not a function. Okay? You guys recalling a little bit of that from last year? We are certainly going to build on this year. Write this down. This is the last thing I'm going to have you put in your notes. Write down f of x. What does that mean? Y equals. It means it's a function. I'm going to have you graph something that is a function. F of x is equal to, let's do 3x squared minus 2x. It's a function. And I am asking you guys to find the value of this function when I replace the x value with a 3. When I replace the x with a 3, what is the value of that function? So that means I go to my x's in my equation and I replace them. I rewrite everything except I replace the x's with 3. So I have 3 times 3 squared minus 2 times 3. Let's do some mental math here. What is 3 squared?
9.
Times 3 is 27. So this part right here is 27. Minus,
6.
what's 2 times 3? It is 6. What is 27 minus 6?
21.
21. The value of that function is 21. Let's do one more. Actually, let's do 2 more. F of 0. Let's do f of 0. That means we have 3 times 0 squared minus 2 times 0 is equal to.
0.
Well, 0 squared is 0, times 3 is still 0. So we have 0 minus 2 times 0, which is 0, which is equal to
0.
So in other words, if the x value is 0, and every term of your function has an x in it, it kind of wipes it all out. Therefore, you have a value of 0. What about this? F of negative, let's do negative 1. F of negative 1. Watch my use of the parentheses here. Make sure that you put that x value. If the x value is negative, you've got to put it in parentheses. So it's 3 times negative 1 squared. By the way, what is negative 1 squared?
3.
1.
It is 1. Then you got to multiply it by 3, getting you 3. So we have minus 2 times negative 1 is equal to, well, negative 1 squared again is 1 times 3 is 3 minus, then we have 2 times negative 1. What's 2 times negative 1? Negative 2. So you're actually adding was 3 plus 2. 3 equals 5. Now, how else could you do this? What else could you do? Go to y equals on your calculator. Go to y equals, type in your rule, type this in, 3x squared minus 2x, make a table, and get all these answers. It's a piece of cake, okay? One thing I have to mention, because it's going to be part of your assignment today, is you're going to be asked to do something like this. It's going to ask you to graph this, not graph it, it's going to ask you to figure out the values of the function at a bunch of different values, but it's going to say something like this, the square root of x minus 2. And the reason I'm telling you this is because earlier today, when you go to y equals on your calculator and you type the square root, a parenthesis shows up. When are you going to close off your parenthesis? Right after the x. You type your x, finish off your parenthesis, and then do minus 2. Otherwise, the calculator is finding the square root of all x, x minus 2 rather than the square root of just the x, and then subtracting 2 from the answer. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I wanted to mention that today, if you get any answers that are errors or undefined or whatever, then you did something wrong, because they all have answers. Okay, and the answer key is posted. You are welcome to check it